Real estate agents making less than $200,000 per year cannot afford to make this mistake. In this video, what we're going to do is we're going to cover this mistake that makes so many agents spinning their wheels and prevent them from making more. There's 4 steps to fixing this problem, and it all starts with number 1. Number 1 is facing the truth. Now, you may be wondering, what is the truth? Well, the truth is that you are the bottleneck. Now, what do I mean by you are a bottleneck? Well, most agents, they're not learning how to fish, but they're begging for somebody to save them. They're begging for somebody else's catch. And what do I mean by that? Well, a lot of the times when people are making less than $200,000 per year, right? It's a little bit like this. So the business looks like this. There's fear influence. And there's usually one or two lead generation services, right? Usually Zillow, or it is essentially Realtor.com. So that's what the business looks like. And then usually it's bringing in, let's say, 100. It's bringing in, let's say, 80. Bringing in, let's say, $150,000, right? And what people are trying to do, right, is like, okay, I'm going to try to find another lead generation service, or I'm going to try to find a company that does social media for me, right? And so people, they're trying to find a company that's basically going to give them leads and basically going to grow their businesses for them. And the thing is, you have to face the truth of client acquisition. So if you want to scale beyond $100,000, beyond $150,000, right? Instead of relying on a company, you have to take responsibility of your client acquisition. Because the only thing preventing you from making $300,000 per year, from making $500,000 per year, it's really just a question of listing appointments made and listing agreements signed and houses sold. That's the only thing that's preventing you from making more, because you're already running the process, right? You're already knowing how to sell the house. You already know all those steps. So the only thing preventing you from making more is just selling more, right? Now, the benefits of when we look at client acquisition, right, is that we want to master that skill, right? And to master that skill, it's not enough for us to buy some leads or hire a company to do something, right? We have to master the skill ourselves. Now, you may be wondering, why do I have to master the skill myself? Why can I just find a company? I don't have the time to master the skill myself. I'm already working with all these clients, already doing all these leads, right? Well, the reason why you want to master this skill yourself is because it's going to allow you to actually look at your marketing, right, that is generating those leads. And it's going to allow you to spot, okay, where is my bottleneck, right? What is the bottleneck I need to fix when it comes down to my marketing? Is it my cost per lead? Is it my cost per listing appointment? Is it my cost per acquisition, right? And then when you know the problem, right, let's say it's your number of leads, well, instead of just thinking about a company, right, and trying to get a company, you're going to be able to now build your own lead generation system, own lead generation tool, right, and start to optimize it. Now, the thing is, if you don't have any of these things and you're always relying on a company, right, you don't know your cost per lead, you don't know your CPA, you cannot really control your CPA, what's going to end up happening is you will be stuck at some point of this process, right? So as an example, let's say you're doing $100,000 a year. You have your sphere, and let's say you're using Zillow, right? Zillow Flex, as an example, and you're paying a 40% referral fee, right? And now you're wondering, okay, well, I'm doing some business, right? I'm doing okay, but for some reason I can't go beyond $200,000, right? I cannot go beyond that, right? And then you're stuck at that, but you don't know why you're stuck. So you're just stuck. You're just making the same income every single year, right? So usually why you're stuck over here, right, is because you have to work with all those clients because your margins are not good enough, right? And then you don't have any more time to do more, right? So let's say you're a realtor that does cold calling, right, through expireds, FISBOs, you do those types of things, right? And now you make, again, let's say $150,000 doing that, right? And now you're wondering, well, why am I always stuck making the same, right? Well, the reason you're stuck making the same is because you have a bottleneck in terms of your time. So you actually have a bottleneck in terms of your marketing because you have to spend the time doing the cold calling, doing the expireds, right, as opposed to people reaching out to you. And every time you get a listing, you get a few clients, right? Well, now you no longer have the time to do the cold calling. So you are therefore stuck at making that same income. Now, the same would apply to a situation where, let's say you are a sphere influence-based agent, right? You don't do any lead generation, you don't do any cold calling, you're just a sphere-based agent, you want to make more. Well, now you just can't control your business at all, right? It's coming or it's not coming, and it is based on your sphere of influence. Just whatever comes in, right? That's what you get. You're not in control of that at all, right? And so therefore, you're always going to be stuck at making something, right? But it's going to be really based on a market. If the market is great, right? Maybe you get some more business. Market is bad, you get less business. You cannot control it. And so all of these things, when we take them back, they come back to this one point, which is your client acquisition. So instead of waiting for somebody to come in and save you, right? Instead of being that passenger on a boat, you want to take control and master marketing yourself. Master what is content, master what is lead generation, right? Master social media platforms, master these skills, master how to do these things yourself, understand them fully. And again, you don't need to try to figure it out yourself. Definitely hire a coach, go through programs, right? Learn this, invest into yourself, but don't just expect somebody to save you, right? But learn it yourself, do it yourself, master it yourself, and then you're going to be able to overcome your biggest bottleneck, which is client acquisition. What that will do is that will build so much confidence, so much flexibility in your marketing, and that's going to let you adapt to any market that is going to happen in the future. And when it's a great market, it's going to allow you to make so much more. You're going to be able to make so much more. In fact, some of our clients are making millions of dollars a year using their client acquisition only. They're a real estate agent, but they're referring business to other agents based on their videos they do on YouTube, right? So if you know how to do this, you're gonna make so much more, but most importantly, you'll avoid those downsides of not having marketing, right? Or having to rely on one company, which then if it goes out of business or they change something there about their policy, you're also out of business, right? So that's the first thing to understand. Now, the second truth is master building systems. And a lot of people like the idea of actually systems. So most realtors I talk to, they are somebody that feel, okay, I would need a system, right? I would need some help. Actually, I think like a system would be a good idea, right? But most people actually don't understand what a system is. So they think that, okay, if I buy leads from Zillow, and they go to, let's say, my KV Core campaign, that is a system, right? That's like a system, right? Actually, in a way, yeah, it is. But however, if you don't understand like what a system actually is, you cannot really control this system at all, right? So if you break down systems thinking, it goes back into these main things. So first of all, you have inputs. Then from inputs, you're gonna have processes. And then from processes, you are gonna have outcomes, right? So you're gonna get the business. And then it's crucial to understand this because from your outcomes, right, which let's say it's a house, right? Getting houses on the outcome, and then obviously money once you sell the house. From this, the money, right, there's a feedback loop that happens. So I'll give you an example of this, right? So let's say the feedback is plus minus, right? So let's say you put $1,000 onto your ads, right? So $1,000 goes to your ads. From this $1,000, you get a commission check, and that commission check is, let's say, it's 20,000, right? Well, now if you put 1,000 in, $20,000 out, some realtors would say that that's great, okay, great. I'm just going to keep using the service, right? However, if you're a smart realtor, right, you're somebody that understands systems, you understand that now we can take that $1,000 and then increase it. So now, obviously, what we want to do is to bring it up to $2,000. Why? Right? Why would we bring the spend to $2,000? Is that not going to be bad for our expenses? Or expenses going to be higher? No. Why? Because now we're going to get more leads, and now we get two houses. So we make $40,000, right? And as simple as this sounds, there's so many agents out there I've seen that ask, okay, you do these social media ads, right? You run these Google ads or Facebook ads. I mean, what is your ROI? And they're like, my ROI is actually 10x or 20x. Like I spent $500 and I make $10,000 back. And at that point, I'm like, okay, how long have you been doing this? They're like, I've been doing this for the last 2 years. I'm like, hey, why are you not increasing your spend? Because you could spend just 2 times more and you would make 2 times more, right? But the problem is that if you don't understand how a system works, you're not able to make that decision, right? Now, the same applies to analyzing systems. So the other problem I've seen typically is that people have something that works. Let's say it works for 3 months, right? Let's say they try again like Facebook ads or try like YouTube ads. It works for 3 months, but then they don't get as many leads, right, the next month, right? So they run for a month, they're not getting as many leads, And a lot of people at that point, they start to come up with different like ideas. They're like, hey, I mean, maybe I'm going to switch my ads from YouTube ads right to Facebook ads. Or maybe instead of doing Facebook ads, I will try to do Google ads. So people are like, okay, I'm going to try to quickly fix this problem by changing to another thing, right? But if you think about any sort of lead generation, right, it goes like this. So a lot of the times when you are starting out with a skill, right, because it is a skill to run paid ads, it looks a little bit like this. So you're improving with it, right, improving with it, and at some point you just start improving like quicker. So you're quicker, 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 and then here you're at the top. So you're the best realtor that's able to run Facebook ads, right? If you're not understanding systems, what basically happens is that you're running them, you're getting the same thing, and at this point, you will have that situation where, okay, I have a problem with my ads, right? And now, if you stop here and you change to another ad, so you go from Facebook ads now to YouTube ads, completely different game, right? You start the cycle again, right? So it goes, okay, ads are off, right? And you start the cycle again. You basically do the same thing, and you never get to that exponential result, right? So instead of that, we want to use systems thinking. So again, we have the inputs, right? We have the processes, we have the outcomes, we have the feedback. Well, now we look at the inputs, right? Okay, we have Facebook ads. We're going to look at your ads. Okay, what is going on in the ads? Because we know if, okay, we're not getting leads, so we're spending money. So obviously the problem is in your ads, right? Lead generation, we're not getting leads. That's the front end. So there's something going on either in your funnel, which is the same, right? So it's probably in your ads. So we look at the ads, right? And then we're like, oh, I've actually been running these ads for the last 3 months. So they're saturated. So let's just record some new ads, right? And that's all. We record new ads and then the ads run again. I had the same exact situation with one of our clients. His ads went up by 50% after 3 months. He was like, okay, what's going on? I'm not sure. Should I change this, right? Hey, just record new ads. That's all he had to do. He went out there, recorded 3 new ads, started running the ads again, and his cost per lead went down by 50%. It went down by 50% from even what it was at the best case. So that's what I'm talking about when it comes down to systems thinking. Now, the same process applies to everything, right? So obviously we have lead generation. That's one example, but you have the same things going on in your lead nurturing, in your lead conversion, on your actual sales calls, when you call the leads, when you go on listing appointments, when you have your actual service delivery, right? You go to the person, they sign a listing agreement, we start working together. What are we doing, right? Are we recording a YouTube video? Are we running ads online to generate leads for that property? What is going on, right? Every single thing that you are doing with your marketing has inputs, processes, outputs, and feedback. And what you want to do is to master each system to its full potential. So if you were to rank your current systems 1 to 10, as far as each of these pillars, lead generation, how good is your lead generation? If it's not 10 out of 10, what is it? And what would make it 10 out of 10, right? And start working towards that goal. Same thing goes for lead nurturing, right? If you call the lead, how excited are they to work with you, right? How engaged are they? And if you rank that number 1 to 10, if you're truly honest with yourself, if it's not a 10, rank it what it is. Is it 5? Is it 6? Is it 7, right? And what would make that a 10, right? And start working towards that goal. Same goes for lead conversion. How good is your sales call when you call them right to set the appointment? Or how good is your listing appointment? How good is your service delivery, right? And if you go all these things, if you bring them up to 10 out of 10, you will start to see massive growth and massive ease of doing the business, massive ease of actually running the business. You just get so much better results and you start unlocking these bottlenecks that are holding your business from growing back. So this is all tied into bottlenecks. And if you think about a bottleneck, let's say here we have water coming in, right? If this stage over here, it is capped, there's a trash here or something, right? It's stopping, there's a block, there's a wood piece. Then this water that is coming on over here, it's going to be not allowed to run faster, right? And that is really what is going on, right? Whatever your problem is, for most realtors, it is client acquisition over here that's stopping their business from growing. That is going to stop the business from growing. So lastly, let's talk about the third problem, which is scientific testing and optimization. This is all tied into what exactly we just talked about. For most people, they are not tracking their numbers. They do not know how they do something. So there's a lot of things out there that essentially are these big beliefs. So as an example, right, there's beliefs like, hey, Instagram Reels are really good, right? I should start doing Instagram Reels. Or there are things like, hey, YouTube is a great thing, right? And what happens is that a lot of people, they go ahead and they start doing these things. So they start doing YouTube videos, right? Or they start doing short form videos. So they start doing those things. And then for obviously the thing, it's not going to work right away, right? So they start posting content, right? And then they get, let's say, 200 views, right? They're like, oh, I'm so frustrated. I only got 200 views. Like, I'm not getting any views from this, right? So I guess like I should just post more, right? I'm just going to post more. I mean, the leads will come, right? The results will come, right? Now, what is the problem with this? Well, obviously, if we're not measuring your videos, right? If you don't know how many video views you're getting and you just keep doing the same thing, right? You're not going to move forward anywhere, right? So you should do something different in order to change that. And so when you think about your marketing, start thinking about it almost as like this scientist. You want to be this little, you want to be like a crazy scientist. And what I mean by that, right, is okay, you have this post over here, and then you got 200 views. You want to measure this, so put it on a tracking sheet instead of just being blind to it. And then when you put it on a tracking sheet, ask yourself, okay, what is the next experiment I can run on my next video to see how can I increase these views? So maybe in the next video that you create, right, as opposed to being the same exact video or a similar video, maybe this time you actually create another hook where maybe before you had a property video, right, you showed the property, but there was no video of you. Well, maybe now you go on the video yourself and throw a little hook. So check out this $3 million unique home in Dallas, Texas for XYZ people, right? And now you try that out, you use that as a hook. Maybe you have something interesting, you have a report in your hand, right? And then now you record a video again, a new video, right? And then instead of having the video before being kind of like very slow or bad, right? Bad quality, you now actually use 4K quality, recorded really well. You have audio coming from your microphone instead of coming in from your phone, right? And you just improve your video. And now you measure your results again, right? So you had the old hook where you just had the house. Now you have the new hook, the 3 seconds of the video, and then measure the results. And then you can measure, okay, hey, this new approach, it got me instead of 200, right? It had me 20,000 views, right? So like, okay, that's awesome. Like my views increased by 10x. That's great, right? So what you want to do now is every single video you create, try to create that personal hook, right? Because you just learned that, okay, personal hook is better than the old hook. Well, now you create your next video, and okay, you need to create a personal hook, right? Maybe now you ask yourself, well, can the hook be a little bit better? Maybe it can make a more polarizing hook. Maybe it's like, hey, maybe you could say something like, hey, I have the property. So the property over here is something that you would die to miss, right? Or hey, the property over here, if you don't see it, you're actually going to miss out, right? And maybe that's your hook, right? So it could be something more polarizing like, hey, if you're in California and you don't see this property, you're dumb, right? It could be more polarizing, right? And you could test out an idea like that. Now, obviously, those are some examples, right? But maybe now you try out that polarizing hook, and now instead of getting 2,000, you get 200,000 views, right? And now you're like, hey, I should probably start using more polarizing hooks, right? Within the range of, obviously, that's good with your brand, right? It's not too polarizing as far as like political or something like that. So now we've been able to go from 200 views, right, to 200,000 views. But the reason why you're able to do so, right, is because you did the scientific testing and optimization. This same applies to your advertisements, right? So if you run ads on Facebook or if you run ads on YouTube, measure every single step and make experiments on the steps that are not working. The key thing about this is to make one experiment at a time. It's because you want to have only one variable at a time. And what I mean by that, right, is, okay, you make the new video, and if you're truly running a test, right, where, okay, you know that's the one thing you want to test, right? It's not just that your videos are just bad in general, right? So you have one experiment to run, right? And it is a test like the hook, like we talked about earlier, right? It's a different hook that you're trying out to see if that would work better, right? Only do that one experiment at a time. So don't try to have also different style of video, right? Because that's the only way you know the result you're getting is scientifically valid. Now, the same applies to your advertisements like we talked about before. Systematically experiment, measure, and optimize your processes every single step of the way, going from lead generation, right, going from lead nurturing, going from lead conversion, going from service delivery. And that's the true beauty of this is that, okay, if you can scientifically test stuff and you can scientifically optimize stuff, it won't take that long, or it won't take that many iterations to figure something out. Because for a lot of people, for most people, right, they're always stuck in this loop where they don't measure stuff and they always have to jump from one thing to another, right? Okay, they're like, now I'm going to do TikToks, now I'm going to do Facebooks, now I'm going to do YouTube, right? They're always jumping from one thing to another. And it looks a little bit like this as far as like their skill curve. It's just very, very like this, it's gone. And then what you want to have, right, is something like this, where it just goes in that exponential curve over time. And this is obviously the time over here. So the longer you do something usually for, the better you usually get. But you have to measure it so that then you can actually improve that exact skill. If you do that for long enough, basically any of these skills, you become the best agent in your market, because most people, they're just not experimenting. They're not doing anything different. They're just trying something they took somewhere and they're jumping from one thing to another. So knowing this is one of the most powerful ways to actually grow your business. It's just testing all the time, and then also improving all the time on what you're doing. Because if you have the metrics, you can improve. If you don't have the metrics, you can improve. Now, the last stage from here is going to be your delegation. So you may be wondering, I just told you, you need to master client acquisition yourself. So why should you delegate, right? Well, the thing is, for most people, right, when they would delegate something, right? Like, let's say your skill level, 1 out of 10, when it comes down to social media, it's 2, right? So you know how to make a post, you know how to basically use social media, but you don't know anything about it, right? And now you would go ahead and hire your niece that just graduated with the marketing degree, right? Or you would hire a person from jobless, whatever, right? Local person that's like social media person, right? Okay, you would hire this person. Obviously, they're not you, right? So they will start posting on social media, and your skill level is 2, right? So you're 2. Now they start posting on your social media. You don't know if the content they're posting is good or if the content they're posting is bad, right? You also don't know how is it performing, right? You don't know, is it the problem with the hook? Is it a problem with the video? Is it good in the first place, right? You have no idea. They suggest an idea to you. You have no idea if it's good or bad because you haven't done it yourself, right? And so that's why, okay, you hire this person, they start doing the marketing, right? Obviously, let's say it doesn't work, right? You don't get any results from it, right? And then you're like, well, why did it not work? Like, what's going on? Like, well, you can't do anything, right? Because you haven't done it before. So a lot of times these similar things happen, as an example, with video editing, right? So people start creating these awesome videos, actually record them really, really well, right? But then they hire a video editor and it messes up the whole channel. Now, instead of getting, let's say, proper views, they're getting like 50 views. And they're like, well, I'm just keeping posting the videos, right? It happens, a year goes by, and they're like, yeah, the channel is not growing anywhere, right? So why is that the case, right? Well, again, because if you don't understand this video editing, or if you don't understand the content, you don't understand social media yourself, you haven't done it yourself, you cannot delegate it because you cannot manage the person. And this purely delegation, right? This is one of the biggest problems in the industry, because people are obviously short on time, right? They want to delegate, but you really cannot delegate anything until you figured it out yourself. Same goes to your sales calls, right? You cannot really hire a person to call your leads for you until you have called those exact leads yourself, right? Because it's like you're asking a person to come in and figure out something that you haven't been able to figure out yourself with your experience, your background. So unless you get very lucky, right? For some reason, there is a video editor out there or a salesperson that's like the next LeBron James of video editing, right? Unless you get very lucky, right? This is not going to work. So you want to hire people for time constraints. That's the whole point, right? Obviously, at some point, we have to let go and we have to get people to ask for help, but do it after you have mastered it yourself. So when you have mastered it yourself, what's going to happen, right, is that, okay, now instead of you being a 2, let's say you are a 9, or let's say you are a 10. And again, you hire that person. First of all, when you hire that person, you will be able to interview that person properly regarding their skills, because you have done it yourself. So you know what it takes to do whatever thing you're trying to ask them to do, right? Now you bring them on board, and let's say they're doing video editing, right? They start doing video editing, and then going back to what we talked about, the systems. So, right, so we have the inputs, processes, feedback, right? We have the feedback over here, right? Now they create a video. We go to a process, right, where you guys hop on a call, you take a look at the video together, right? And then you have the video over here. Now we have the feedback. So you can tell them, hey, this is looking good. Let's change the font over here. Okay, this is looking good, but I mean, Before, when I was running the YouTube videos myself, when I was editing, I still remember the videos, like the longer lengths, that worked actually better. So let's actually make this a little bit longer. Now it's like only 3 minutes. So let's make it 10 minutes. So let's make it longer, right? And then you give this feedback and they're like, okay, got it, got it, got it. And then you can basically replicate yourself, right? You already know what model works. So you just replicate yourself over and over again. And then the same thing applies to the rest, right? Okay, now you have so many leads, right? You have 100 leads coming in every single month. Those are very interested. You don't have that time to call those leads. No problem. You've already called leads yourself, right? So you know the salesperson you're looking to hire. And the same exact process, right? You're 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, right? You hire that person. And again, same exact process. We can listen to their calls, see what's going on. We have the script for the calls that's already validated, right? It's so much easier to now delegate that to that person. But if you're somebody that's never done a single sales call, right, there's no way you can coach that person. There's no way you know what the problem is. And therefore, you just waste a lot of money, right? So same applies to all these things. It's a great idea to delegate, but start doing it right after you have mastered your client acquisition yourself. And then don't delegate too early, right? Because if you delegate too early, that's one of the biggest risks to your businesses because you have to pay the person, you have to pay for whatever marketing you're doing, the tools, the services, right? All those things. And then you have to pay also advertising spend if you're running ads. So you're putting all that money, but if that one person doesn't do their job, which they most likely won't do, right? You'll waste a lot of money in doing that. So, but if you master it first, it's virtually going to be guaranteed that it's going to work because it can coach the same skills you have to virtually anybody as long as they're like reasonably intelligent, right? You can coach most of these things to other people, right? So simple as that.